There are other types of quasi-experimental designs, like a time series analysis. This is where we would take multiple observations of a single group before and after a treatment. So how is this different from just pre-test, post-test, or different from just the first example where we looked at a score before and after a study guide? If we want to see some kind of increase or decrease in our dependent variable, having lots of data points instead of just two helps us to pinpoint when that upward or downward trend might have started. So just having more time points to compare to helps us make sure that the effects that we're seeing after our manipulation, like after introducing the study guide, are really due to our manipulation and not some kind of pre-existing difference. So for each group, we can gather multiple baselines, meaning we would give them, let's say, a test every month or something like that, instead of just a midterm and a final. Let's say we gave them a test every month up until midterm, and that allowed us to get multiple baselines, meaning that we got multiple measurements before we gave an independent variable. And then we give the study guide for the midterm, and then we give a test every month from there on out. And those would be our multiple post-tests, multiple test scores with the study guide. We can also do what's called multiple time series design, where we have multiple observations with several non-equivalent groups. So that one I just talked about was only with one group, like with one class at a time. How is this different from just pre-test, post-test, or different from our first example, looking at the score before and after? Well, like I said before, we can see trends a little more easily if we have those multiple baselines and multiple dependent variables in one group and in another one, just to make sure that our groups weren't already going to start increasing at midterm. So we might do that in group 2 where we don't give a study guide, and in group 1 where we do give a study guide, and we would have multiple test scores before and after that time point. So why, again, would we use a time series design? It's especially helpful when there are no appropriate non-equivalent control groups to compare to. So if we're looking at the effects of some kind of law or historical event on some kind of outcome, there's not always a good comparison or control group that feasibly works. Also, when we're looking at data retrospectively in the past, it can be especially hard to find a good equivalent control group too, since we didn't set up our comparison in the first place. If we're looking at data that's just kind of archival and already been collected by other people, we didn't design it, so it's hard for us to control anything. Tesoriero et al. In 1995 did a really good time series analysis trying to answer the research question of, are people more likely to go in for HIV testing after they learn of a celebrity's HIV status? And they specifically looked at Magic Johnson announcing his HIV positive status in 1991. In November of 1991. They examined archival data of HIV tests reported to the Center for Disease Control, CDC, and that data was collected by the CDC monthly. So they got data from January of 1991 to June of 1992, so about 9 months before and after Magic Johnson's announcement. They had to do this time series analysis because they can't do a comparison group. They're looking at just one group of people in America. There's no control group of some country that didn't hear about this announcement. It was huge and international. This was kind of the peak of professional basketball at its best. So they had to make do with the data that they had. And here is this beautiful graph where you can pretty visibly right away see the results. The red line there in the middle is when Magic Johnson announced his HIV positive status. And it looks like the levels after that of people going to get tested are way higher than they were before. It looks like a pretty drastic difference. However, there are still other explanations. Because this is a quasi-experimental design, there's no way to exactly be sure what was causing this. So it may not be that Magic Johnson's announcement itself was the cause, like the independent variable that caused the dependent variable of people to go get tested to go up. If you look before the red line, there was already a sharp rise right before his announcement anyway, like in the month leading up to it. So what might have happened is that the same factors that influenced Magic Johnson to come out about his status may have also influenced people to start getting tested even before he announced, like just more of a cultural acceptance and talking more about this issue and realizing that it can affect heterosexual people, that anyone is at risk if they're having unprotected sex at all. either way, we can still make some conclusions about this, that there's something important about late 1991 that influenced a lot of people to go start getting tested. And it may be the same kind of cultural forces that influenced Magic Johnson to announce his status.